It's star 1978, star 8378. I am sitting here. I rewatched the part where yesterday they mentioned two words I never would have put together, with like nation state in a theoretical of, and then statehood. And I'm like, if the lower 48 is green and the statehood is red, that's an interesting machine head reference, green to red. And then I'm watching, I was watching as Putin invades Ukraine and how they go into a historic context, because all of the actors are, like the supporting actors and the actors in this learning experience for me as I'm watching, horrified on the television, and I'm like, now, they say that in old Viking, being Vi, and the king, I'm standing, well, Viking, so there's, Russia is the big brother to the little brother being Ukraine. Would that make me the little sister or little cistern across the water in Viking? For this purpose, I have a painting that has what I'm now finding out is a flag of some sort, or some reference to relatives that I have never heard of or never knew, but I can see visually we are more akin than what's going on here in poster child for a different king that's not Viking. And Viking is spelled Viking. The one here that's got on a here's the thing though, the thing that calls itself a king here is only on a paper calendar, and I don't know how the lower 48 pass around this calendar with this false king on it. I don't know how it appeared. I don't know why they celebrate it. I don't know why the federal government allows it, because on the Federal Reserve note, it very clearly states that in this area there is a profile of what's allowed for presidents. And of course we have a Viking backing in however that works with statehood. So I don't know how they keep perpetuating this dangerous story that's gotten out of hand in North America, where I am, between statehood, nation state, and our little sister, since currently the title of Big Brother and Little Brother is busy fighting over something else. Little sister, I guess, I don't even know, because I don't have a name or a face on it, a big sister, so that gets confusing. I did lose sight of the moon, though, in the night sky. That's frightening. With wars being fought elsewhere that you don't have information on. They call him a Lieutenant Colonel Vindman on the Russia-Ukraine crisis and the U.S. response. Now, he says acronyms and words, like letters put together and words that I've never heard. Unmanned something or other. And then, but he says something about seismic vibration, which caught my ear. And then I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's what I felt when the alarm went off. Because again, I only have what they're bringing in as information.
But that's probably where we need to go before we really start to force Vladimir Putin into thinking about off ramps. He's the one that initiated this war. He's the one that's going to make the first signals that he's willing to go ahead in a different direction. But we're far from that point still.
Well, we hope we get to that point, Colonel. I have a quick follow-up on the nuclear sable rattling. I hear you saying we shouldn't be concerned. He's done this in the past. But there are others saying that he is not the same Vladimir Putin he was 5, 10 years ago. He's changed. What makes you think, from where you're sitting, that he's still a rational actor? And I think you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, but he hasn't changed. He's not a madman. He's not suicidal. He's actually been incrementally increasing his aggression against the West for years. I mean, he used nuclear grade materials to poison adversaries, chemical weapons. He's targeted U.S. forces with bounties. He's conducted multiple wars, and he's not. The problem is that he hasn't faced a significant reaction. Now he's facing that reaction. This is something that he's unaccustomed to. But he's not a madman, and he's going to, once he realizes that this is legit, this has a major bite, and he's not achieving his military objectives in Ukraine, he's going to look for other ways to achieve his aims in the long run. Thank you.
Colonel, in a recent op-ed in the Atlantic, you said that Biden granted Putin a free hand. How so?
Well, it's really multiple administrations, 20 years of failed policy, and what that did was that kind of put blinders on to the broader landscape with regards to Ukraine. So what you have is the administration kind of looking at Russia through a soda straw. Within that soda straw, the Biden administration's leaned very far forward. They're on the leading edge of these sanctions. They're now providing weapons. But there's more that could have been done. We could see now the catastrophe that this war is, and that the likelihood of being limited and the U.S. stays out of it cleanly or Europe stays out of it cleanly is unrealistic. So my critique was mainly to learn from our mistakes, to stop an incrementalist approach, and to really start providing the kind of support to Ukraine that they need. So that's not the $350 million that the U.S. promised, but an order of magnitude bigger, $3.5 billion,
Colonel?
and start thinking about a $35 billion debt.
Colonel, I wanted to talk to you about the Ukrainian people. No, it's okay. Many people are in awe.
Now, this woman has the last name or the last this. It's a suffix, Suffix, right? That's how you spell suffix. That says King, King, after her name, or she uses it, I think, as a surname, Sur, not SIR. But it matches the calendar problem that I have going on with mixed messages. There's also something here called franchise. There's some major whatever. It's almost as though they have these mini branding, marketing, inner economic machines within the broader context. And I'm not quite sure if it's labor and management arguments that have spun out of control with this messaging and with this hyper-aggressive, non-indigenous people starting to unfold a message that isn't so. I thought that as far as statehood and nation state go, there would be some form of officiate that has to bestow the correct whatever onto the populace, even though it might not be popular. So this way it doesn't send inner mixed messages or outer grand concourse mixed messages. I'm a little confused by some of the messages I've been receiving in this feedback loop with whatever telecast is able to put together as state funded or run or whatever in a conversation that I didn't start, but I'm trying to document what I see and what's going on and where whatever and whatever. And so I'm just, it feels, see, because if the calendar completely gets knocked out like the moon out of the sky, then we are only left with anchors of actuality and reality and figurative. Figuratively, there's paper that we use as currency. Figuratively, there's a rock solid, evidential, visual portrait of the leaders. Should the calendar just disappear on scheduling? So now that kind of, for me, just solidifies the figurative and the speech. This morning I caught one of, I guess, would you say it's a guest appearance? Or, I mean, an employee, I don't even know the words to use in a hypothetical hyperbolus or parabolus type theoretical, for philosophical purposes of, he comes out and he says that he's accrediting the first street light. He's accrediting himself and his people, and it's in North America, no less, which should be it's sacrilege. I mean, that's the word for it, where you sack someone else's inventors and populace and replace them with your own. I don't understand how they're being afforded this free speech on rewriting a historical indoctrine or whatever on televised state aided or funded television when it's not accurate. The statehood and the nation state tell us who the people accredited for the light, for the street light, for the whatever, who they were, what they were, so we can celebrate them if we need to celebrate them. But for some reason, he's I wouldn't say rapping, but he's doing poetry in a verbose way where it is that passive aggressive, because there's this underseething, and it doesn't feel passive. It doesn't feel aggressive at all. It feels very passive. Like it's passing it off as it's something that's nondescript. It's something like it's normal, but it's really not. I'm going to pull that up. Hang on. All right. So this is the poet part.
On the last day of Black History Month, we're highlighting innovators who help make our lives easier. African Americans have made many contributions.
African Americans. I'm on the North American continent. North American. Not Africa. Why is the promotion of a false governance or a false king being perpetuated within the state while there is major global and climate change problems and we've lost the moon in the night sky at planetary?
Fields of science and technology. Their ingenuity has improved many devices we use on a daily basis, including the remote control, elevator, and pencil sharpeners. That's just to name a few. I wrote this poem taking a...
I do not have a nation state representative or a statehood representative to call in order to vet this level of communication. It's misleading. and I don't know whom they're addressing that allows this to effectuate and then enter into somebody's delusional state, because I'm living in a figurative illusion. This is a delusion at the moment, but this delusion does impact my illusional state of figurative and relative abilities and capabilities.
Taking a look at some of the innovative creations made by black people that make everyday life so much easier. What have black people done for our society? Well, a lot. Oftentimes without having propriety. To begin,
They don't have propriety. That means for sports fans, you're out of bounds, and it's not your ball, and it's not your call.
my melanin means excellence, with a touch of Big Mama's modesty. It's up to us to teach our history properly, because I feel like nobody is as fly as we are, with the bird's eye view. Paul patented the helicopter in '62. George Washington Carver, we're giving you props. Created over 500 products just using his crops. Now, peanut butter, we know. God bless his soul. How about flour, vinegar, ink, dye, cosmetics, and soap? That's off the top of the head, just to name a few. There's greatness in our bloodline, like C.R. Drew. The standard is to preserve our history like a refrigerator. So we...
Last picture's a little confusing on whose relative that's misleading a populace that is not related to your figurative.
So we can open up doors like an elevator. If you don't know, then we're miles apart. Like Edmund, be the plug that's providing the spark. Yes, that's actual facts, no matter how you spin it. So love black people like the things we invented. Salute to those before us who made the sacrifice. In spirit, I'm Garrett Morgan with the traffic light. So keep shifting the game. Green means go. The world in the palm of my hands like a remote control. Hot as a stove. Yeah, we extra dope. I'm in Hotep with the stethoscope. All that means is I'm ahead of my time. Listen to the sound of my soul. The thought is simply sublime. Open up my heart so you can get that feeling. I'm surgical with the flow. Dr. Daniel H. Williams. Our fire burns so strong there's no putting it out. Even T.J. Marshall knows what I'm talking about. Self-made like C.J. Walker. You can tell I'm good. We have to refine the track we're on like Granville Woods. Sharp like a pencil from John L. Love. We want every chick we deserve without losing a crumb. And these are actual facts, no matter how they spin it. So love black people like the things we invented. And for those who are wondering if this poem is just a flex, the question should be, what are we going to do next?
That's a good way
That is
to
a good
end
question, although it is a flex. That's nicely done, Nate. And I appreciate the George Washington Carver reference as somebody who has peanut butter literally every single day. He's sometimes referred to as the father of the American peanut industry.
Exactly. I saw you with peanut butter last week.
I have no idea what they're talking about. I hear Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah. Those are not facts that I can verify. I don't have access to statehood and to nation state in order to verify that. I don't know why they keep perpetuating this message and paying it forward this many years. It's knocked out the education system, certainly generationally. It's been generational education that's been knocked out. Generational enlightenment that's been knocked out. And I don't know why their message, is here so aggressive and why it's being allowed to be so aggressive. The Federal Reserve, we have a note. The Federal Reserve says at U.S. Treasury level that they know what the profile is here for nation state and for statehood. I'm just confused why this art exhibit or expose, I need it at the moment just to capture a piece of what's going on at the land level, But what I don't understand is why it was given momentum or fueled to take root in some deep-seated effort in this innocent enough whatever in a land that, if everything else got knocked out, it still intercontinentally has a wall of unity and has some barter system. But even if barter, I mean, whatever, in whatever. But there is unity in that. And it does have a look, it does have a purpose, and it does have strength for a message. What I'm unclear of is why, as little sister, am I so detached from the Viking that I am built for and with in figurative and in action and in motion. Why am I sent to this dangerous place that's hurtful just to take samples of, I mean, like, it's not like I benefit from what I'm doing at the moment. In fact, every day last night, that Pop Rocks sensation, if you put the candy on your tongue, I don't have a word for it, but if you put the candy on your tongue, it makes this sizzle. It sizzles like a frying pan with butter at a really high temperature. I had that in my throat last night again, and then it started traveling in my joints and in my muscles. It's like going, it's almost jumping atomically through the RBC. I don't know if it's the RBC or WBC within blood pipes and electrolytes, but it is interacting with striated muscle and the myelin sheath in activation and ability to control one's own movement. There's something very horrifically going on within the energy grid within where I live as natural state of something in Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. There is one other guy who was mentioning he had something about his vision. I just want to put that on. Just give me a second. There's a man, he wrote a book about it.
For a professional writer and an avid reader, as you can imagine, many thought this could have been the end of his former life, but in his new book, it's called The Beauty of Dusk, on vision lost and found, we're happy to say. Bruni tells us how he gained a new perspective on perseverance, empathy, and humanity. The book, we should say, is published by Simon & Schuster, which is a division of Paramount. Frank Bruni, good morning. But we also want you to know we'd be doing this book even if it wasn't a division. It is that good, Frank Bruni, and it's so good to see you. So good to see you. There's a line in the book where you say, when God gives you lemons, take a bow. I love that. So take us to that night where you go to bed and you wake up and you can't see in one eye. What did you think had happened or was happening to you?
Well, at first I thought that nothing had happened. You know, I'm a boomer generation person, you know, so I have that sort of sense of invincibility, which is a false sense. And I thought, you know, everything's fixable. So first I thought I just had to wash my eye.
Yeah.
Then I thought, no, it's my eyeglasses. And only as the hours went on and really into the next day did I think something might be wrong. You know, and then
it wasn't total dark, or was it? Was it total darkness or blackness, or what did it look like? What did it?
It was as if a dappled fog had moved into my field of vision and was over the right side of it. And very, very scarily, it was making the words on a computer screen shimmy and swim and tilt. And that was terrifying to me because, as you noted in the intro, that's my living.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, I have, at times, not always, I've used in my quintessential human function, which I make a square and some gesture, I'll use a pen and then an outside grid that I have in the other room, and I'll just make an X, Y axis perspective, since sometimes I have floaters in my hindsight, and while the foresight, being the color spectrum, sometimes it shakes. Those are those mini seismic vibrations that I talk about with noise pollution and the magnetic current that's coming through. I think they call it microwaves. Again, the humans' sector and their linguistical choices, I need to sit with, if I need to actually say it where it's going to matter without just key op words, then a professional just needs to give me a vocabulary list and build me the construct of how they think of it, and then I can manipulate my actuality and reality into something that is a conversation that they can actually understand fully. Other than that, I don't have an articulatable reference system that is readily needed in my day-to-day functions.
You go to the doctor and you hear words that nobody ever wants to hear at the doctor, where she says, "This is bad. This is bad," and then you're.
My mom had something like this also, her retina detached, so what they do, thank God they were able to save her vision, but in this, he has to go for shots in his eye for something that's going on at climactic in the climate area. They're putting needles in their eyes at the doctor's office. That's really scary.
That you had a stroke in the eye, and part of the treatment involved an injection right in the.
This AMA, American Medical Association, in the lower 48, they call it a stroke in the eye, according to whatever just spoke.
In the eye, Frank.
Oh gosh,
Oh God,
it's
that
hard
made my
to
skin
read.
crawl. It was very hard to read, and it's in the first chapter too. Take us into what that was like and what was the purpose of that.
Well, that was in the first 2 weeks, and I decided early on that I was going to try to be as active as opposed to passive about what I was going through. And so I qualified for it and enrolled in several experimental trials. And the first.
An experimental trial. I never signed up for an experimental trial with humanity.
First one involved injections into the eye, which are about as pleasant as they sound.
Yeah.
And the other one, I actually had to learn to inject myself twice a week for 6 months. But here's the thing. I mean, that sounds, people wince, it sounds terrible. I got through all of that. And as a result of that, and this is really the message of the book, as a result of that, I learned not how weak and fragile I am, but how strong I am. And
That's a psychological mention, which I'm not going into. Hang on, because there is a mention here also about climate change. Here's the climate change part.
This morning says the risks of climate change are growing, and countries around the world need to do more to adapt to the dangerous impacts that are coming. Senior national and environmental correspondent Ben Tracy has seen the report, and Ben, there's some serious stuff in there. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Nate. Serious stuff indeed. This report by the world's leading climate scientists is released just once every 8 years, and it's pretty grim. It says the impacts of climate change are accelerating, that we're not adapting to them quickly enough, and we're running out of time. The report says the planet is now facing increased risks of intense and extreme heat waves, droughts, wildfires, and floods that are already impacting billions of people. Climate change is also taking a huge toll on the natural world with massive loss.
I had a problem with humanity at 100% level because I was the victim in the field. Well, I've been a victim in the field since 1978. However, in 2016, there was a known, discussed event that someone, unbeknownst to me, had planned. And as a soft target, because my figurative is soft, I'm a physical being. Someone pushed for 2016 to hurt me. And not only did they hurt me in 2016, they dragged it all the way to now. Now it's just a different effect. It's a different punishment to be human. But it just, nobody stopped it before. And now they come up with all sorts of excuses as to why They're just in the I don't give a shit department. So that's really frightening when you think of who's going to actually step up and make changes in time for the planet not to have a problem. I mean, the moon disappeared. The sunlight is at such a dangerous level. The moon disappeared. My human biology is being tortured daily as I walk through. I got lines in my face that make no sense. They go up and down, almost like puppet strings that were pulled wrong. I've never had any work done on my face, but yet I've got signs of weird puckering, almost like pressure systems off.
Losses of forests, coral reefs, the world's ice sheets, and some animal species. Now, scientists warn we need to take unprecedented steps to more quickly adapt to climate change because our current infrastructure.
And my whole thing is like, who are we depending on for climate change? I mean, in anatomical security, biological security, they've failed. And now we've got planetary climate issues that also affect, in like a compound effect, the biological. And now, who are those people that we are going to look up to respond, to make sure that the climate and the planet doesn't turn on us and make it really inhospitable?
Structure, including our power grids, is not resilient enough. Now, there are also big concerns about coastal areas due to rising sea levels. John Kerry, the Biden administration special envoy for climate, he says that further climate change denial or delay is a recipe for disaster. There is some good news here. If we do reduce planet warming emissions
From really the 1940s, the fourth decade of the 19th century until century 20, decade 1 plus 6 years, they had all that time to fix a whole lot of dangerous stuff. And instead, they didn't do anything needed. It's almost like Candyland just broke the piggy bank, and it was just a disgusting array as far as the television is reporting. So now, subsequent to that, there's, in my own time frame, 19th century, 7 decade, they had 7 decade, they had 8th decade, they had 9th decade, they had to 2000, they had 4 decades in order to reverse the effects not only of this dangerous climate change, but also of the personal biological attack that I was being sent head in for that I couldn't see. They're different teams that work one and the other, but they do work in some tandem fashion. So I see climate still has a problem, and biologic was not picked up and rescued and taken out of harm's way in 2016, which was avoidable. I'm standing in 2022 figuratively, in meta format, in figurative format, in a mirror picture with this televised message.
emissions, we can still avoid some of the worst impacts of climate change. Nate?
We have to take care of the planet so we can take care of us. Ben, thank you. Coming up next, Vlad Duthier has the stories that you'll be talking about today. But first, it is 7:44. Time to check your local weather.
It's like they just say these things, the humans, with no action plan. It's like they know that they have to do certain things, but there's no guiding light. There's no set task list of like, here, this is what I need. I mean, like team operatives. It's like, okay, you're handling this, you're handling this, you're handling this, you're handling this, go. Get something done. I mean, feet. It fixes things. I am so not used to being the only schmo in an area going like, what the hell happened? Like, what did you do? Like, what happened? Where, I mean, like, I would like to be more helpful. I just don't know where people working on stuff go for the time that they spend in the daylight hours or in the evening hours. I have no idea what they even call themselves. Again, the education system was knocked out and reprioritized to some false king's kids from some foreign land and some Coliseum sports theme before I got here. Unbeknownst to Lynn and Lou, and unbeknownst to me, it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. It's February 28th, 2022. I think I might have said 27th before, but it is the 28th.